I always quite enjoyed looking at these particular ships, how they converted them from a regular shaped ship into an aircraft carrier. Hello, this is BJ from Hearns Hobbies, and today I'm going to be looking at something a little bit different. It's a little ship model. But actually these particular ship models, the 1 to 700 scale Waterline series, are very, very popular all around the world, but particularly in Japan. So the 1 to 700 scale Waterline series, you've probably noticed this on boxes before. This is a standardized series that was agreed upon by some of the major manufacturers in Japan. So they could standardize a range of ships in 1 to 700 scale, and being waterline, they don't have full hulls. Idea being is you can lay them down on a table and use them for wargaming. But quite a lot of people don't use them for wargaming. They're actually used for making very nice water-based ocean dioramas. So this particular one, this is the which one is this again? The Chitose, I think. That's a Chitose. And this is actually the second iteration of the Chitose. So when it first was laid down before World War II, it was actually a sea float plane tender, I should say. Totally different shape, and then later it was refitted to be an aircraft carrier. So it became a light aircraft carrier in about 1942-43. Okay, let's have a closer look inside and we'll see what these particular kits are all about. So you'll see there's this one. It's actually quite a thick box. Now usually a 1 to 700 scale would be about half that size, but this is packed full of things, and probably particularly it's going to have quite a few aircraft in it. Now you see how it's quite unusual. You see the regular bow here. So this is the original shape, and they've rebuilt the top structure to have this a flight deck. All right, let's open up and have a look. Okay, so there's your bag of bits. All right, let's place this over here. Now actually, let's have a closer look at these. I'll cut them open. Let's go through here. So there's two sets of sprues within this one, this bag. Now here you can see the main hull, so in two halves, and then this particular line here is the waterline. So if it was full hull, this would be extended probably another centimetre below that line. Okay, then you've got basic superstructure here, and then you'll have supports, and then you'll have the flight deck. On here, you'll see there's internal structure here. And then you've got various decks here for anti-aircraft guns, escape vessels, and various other fittings. Okay, so that's that set of sprue. And then we come up to this part here. So there's some decals within this particular sheet. You see a lot of the Nippon Marus, which are the rising sun markings for the aircraft. All right, so if we do this, all right, so here's the decals. You've got quite a lot of aircraft decals there. And then we have some flags. Okay, so you get your choice of a straight flag, or there's the waving flag. Over here we have the camouflage. Makes it easier than actually painting. So you've got large decals for the camouflage deck, and then also the white lines that go on the deck as well. And then we've got a variety of sprue here, and as you can see there, these are all aircraft. So you've got some fighters. What have we got here? We've got some Zeros and Aichis, multi-pieces, so you can have them with their folded down wings or folded up, which is a nice touch. Over here you've got the aircraft with fully extended wings. And then over here we have all the anti-aircraft guns. Now this is actually from the Nagato kit, so these main guns won't be used, I'd say. But you'll be using all these types of standardized anti-aircraft weaponry. Okay, So hence why this particular kit has such a thick box. There's quite a lot of parts. So let's pop this over here and we'll move on. All right, so here we've got the main deck. You can tell this is a fairly new kit because it's very, very clean. There's a part that's just come loose off one of those sprues. And there's a section of clear parts here as well. Now I'm not sure what all these clear parts are. They could be searchlights, but we'll see in the manual. And you'll also notice that all of the engraving is very, very fine on this particular part. So it's a fairly new kit. All right. Let's just separate these parts out. All right, so there's the base. This is for the waterline. So the two halves of the hull are going to glue onto this side, and then you have a perfectly smooth base. Now you'll notice too that there's these ridges here, and these ridges are actually for holding the weight. So every 1:700 scale waterline kit you get, you do get a small weight that fits into there, and we'll get to that in just a moment. All right, so there's the bottom of the hull. Over here we've got some more aircraft. Okay, there. Over here we've got some more small decking parts. Here we have the flight deck. So interesting how the flight deck is actually mounted above the main superstructure of the ship. I guess that was the easiest way to convert it. And then you have the elevators here for moving the aircraft up and down into the hold area. Over here you've got the lower deck, so that would have been, that matches up to this like so. So you see where the elevators are, so it would have been at a different level. And then you've got anchor chains, they're all molded in. You do have this textured tread plate across all these little decks and defensive positions. But then there's the elevator decks as well. They're the covers that go across here. Okay. And then we've got one more set of parts to look at. And this has a lot of accessories in it as well. Okay, so there's more aircraft. Let's just open that up. This one's actually just staples. And this looks more like an accessory pack. There's a little set of instructions in here and some more decals. Okay, some more aircraft decals there. Here's a little manual. So it describes how these anti-aircraft guns are put together, and then also these additional aircraft. So you've got some float planes in here. Very nice touch. A description of what you get. Okay, so here we go. We've got two identical sprues with your float planes. So you've got nice little individual floats, super fine struts. So this really shows you how quite new this mold is. Got all your anti-aircraft guns here, and then some small boats. Got the upper wings because these are biplanes. They're across here. And a little crane and some anchors. So you won't be using all those parts, but it does give you the option to fit out this particular ship with all these parts. All right, so let's move that across. Then from there you get this part here. So Waterline Series. Actually in here is the small weight. So that's a small metal weight that gets glued into the waterline part or the base of the hull. And that gives a bit of stability when you've got this on a table. And then we have the manual. Okay, so you've got a manual like this. It's quite a skinny box, so it's folded in half. Let's just straighten that out a bit so it's easy to look at. So we've got a little bit of history here. And then let's see how this folds open. All right, so we've got our decal guide right here. Actually, this is a painting guide and the decal. You see the decals for the camouflage across the top here. You could always put down the decals and paint over it. You can use them as a good guide, or you can just paint the paint straight on. It's up to you. You get a painting guide here. Has all the codes for the Mr. Hobby and Aqueous type. There's also written descriptions of the paint colors, so if you don't get these particular paints or you don't like those paints and you like to use something else, it'll be quite easy to match up. All right, so here we go into the construction. All right, so you can see the internal hangar deck area and the support for the upper flight deck. That gets built up first. You've got your bow, and then you have this the stern part with the launchers. You got the hull. There's your weight right there, and that's glued into the base, which is going to be your waterline. From there, we move on to all these defensive positions along the sides of the hull. So you've got both sides here. Lots of small parts. All right, so you continue adding all these extra platforms for the aircraft guns. And then you do the opposite side. So there's a lot of antennae which are mounted across the sides. And I guess I had to mount those on the sides because you want a perfectly flat deck across the top of the ship. And then you fold it over to the other side, and you can see the internal hangar there. So I guess you can put quite a few aircraft there. It depends on how you put this together. If you have these elevators all the way down, or I guess if you leave them off, it'll appear that they're all the way down. You'll be able to see into the insides to see all the aircraft you'll have parked inside the hangar. So this side you've got all the anti-aircraft guns as well. This is with the flight deck in place. You see all the support struts, front and the back. And then you've got the instructions on how to build all your aircraft. And then the layout is all up to you. So you'll probably have to do a little bit more research on your own. And then over here, we have the legend of all the parts. So anything that's grayed out, they're not actually used in this particular kit. So this is the, where's that generic part with all the float planes? Would have been one of these, I think. So you don't use all the parts, but I mean, having all the aircraft and bits and pieces is always very handy anyway. You'll be able to use those. You keep them in the spare parts box, and you're going to use those on a scratch build or a conversion build in the future. So that is the Aoshima kit of the Chitose. So there it is there. So it was used throughout the war. In its early days, up to about 42, 43, it was a seaplane tender, which meant it would have carried all the seaplanes on it. It didn't have this big deck across the top, and they would have just craned all the seaplanes into the water, and then it would have all the supplies for it as well. And then converted over to a light aircraft carrier in around 43, and it later was sunk at the Battle of the late Gulf, I think. And that was the end of that. But it turned out to be a very interesting ship. I always quite enjoyed looking at these particular ships, how they converted them from a regular shaped ship into an aircraft carrier, because the Japanese understood how important aircraft carriers were for their fight. So that's it. That's the Aoshima 1:700 scale waterline Chitose light aircraft carrier. So if you have any questions, please leave them below and I'll get to them as soon as I can. So hope you've enjoyed that. So thank you for joining me.